Welcome back. A lot of talk this weekend on the new Marquette Law School poll as Governor Tony Evers inches closer to making his re-election decision. The new poll shows 55% of voters say they don't want the governor to seek a third term. That includes 50% of independents and 15% of Democrats. The governor just after the poll's release with reporters in Green Bay.
Stuff happens. That's great. People can have that belief. I have no problem with that. So I'll be making up my mind when we're done with the budget.
So with that, let's bring in Charles Franklin, the director of the Marquette Law School poll. Charles, it's good to see you.
Great to be here. Thanks.
So let's start with these re-election numbers. 55% of voters say they don't want the governor to seek a third term. It includes 50% of independents and 15% of Democrats. Put that into some context into what we're seeing here.
Sure. The governor's overall job approval is still net positive, 48 approve, 46 disapprove. So the third term is clearly more negative than his overall job approval. On the other hand, if we look back to Scott Walker in January of 2016, it was 61% that didn't want him to run, and opposition to a run among Republicans was even higher in Walker's case than the 15% for Evers with Democrats now. So I would say this is showing some lack of enthusiasm for a third term, and the governor should take that into account. But we've been there with Walker, and Walker was in worse shape. And of course, he then came back and ran and lost to Evers in 2018 in a very close race.
I was just going to ask, do you think that this 55% number of voters who say they don't want the governor to seek a third term is concerning to the governor?
Well, I think it's one small part of the overall picture. You still have to remember that Evers has the best favorability rating of any politician in the state that we ask about. So he's not underwater on that. He's not in trouble on that. And his long-term approval rating has been just over 50%, which in these days is pretty good for any politician. The last thing to remember is you don't run by yourself. There's a question of who the opponent might be. And the fact that 55% say they don't want him to run doesn't in any way translate directly into would you choose Evers or one of the other potential Republican candidates.
You mentioned the governor's approval rating sitting at 48% right now. It's dipped a bit, but still the highest among Wisconsin politicians. Is that a strength or weakness for him as he considers re-election?
Well, I think it's generally a strength. That the consistency with which he's been over 50% is really striking. Not a lot over 50% most of the time, but a bit over 50. However, he has been gradually declining over the last 2 years from mid 50s to now 48. So there is a bit of a downward trend. But as long as it has stayed better than his disapproval number, I think that's still relatively a strong point.
Let's talk about the state budget. Matt is at the Capitol following developments with that. Wisconsinites have some thoughts on tax cuts, according to your poll. A majority of them would like to see a good chunk of the surplus sent back to them.
Yes, they would. 35% say they'd like either all of the $4 billion surplus go to tax cuts or 3/4 go to tax cuts. Then it's 35% that want only 25% or none of it to go to tax cuts. So you see a very even divide there. Finally, 29% say exactly 50%. So you can look at this half full or half empty. Almost 2/3 want 50% or more to go to tax cuts. But add it up the other way, and it's 2/3 that want 50% or less to go to tax cuts. Not surprisingly, Republicans want more going to tax cuts. Democrats want less.
The state Supreme Court is right now in the midst of releasing its final rulings of this term. The court's approval is at 49%, according to your poll. You asked an interesting question about how political these Supreme Court races have become.
Yeah, and we said, as they've gotten so political, we might as well go ahead and elect them with a partisan nomination. 58% favored that. 42% wanted to stick to the current nonpartisan elections. I think this is an interesting question about whether we're changing our views of the court. On the other hand, in February, we asked whether we should stick with elected judges or move to partisan nominations, and over 90% said they wanted to keep electing judges. So I don't think we're turning away from election, and maybe there'll be some discussion about whether the current nonpartisan elections are the way to continue.
Charles Franklin, the director of the Marquette Law School poll, it's always great to have your insight and analysis. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Now, we talked last week with retiring Chief Justice Ann Walsh Bradley about the state of the court, money, and politics.
That what we've seen in the last election is lots of money and certainly greater division among the people.
How dangerous is that to the court?
It's dangerous to the court. It's dangerous to our form of government.
You can watch that interview right now on the WISN 12 YouTube page. Just look for the Upfront playlist. Up next, Matt's back from the Capitol, the Assembly, and the Senate on the clock. Just how fast can a budget get through? J.R. Ross with his new reporting joins us next.